And we're live.
Hello,
So,
everybody.
hi to everyone joining us, whether you're in Decentraland, whether you are joining us. I'm going to just mute this. We are joining you in live whether you are in YouTube, whether you are on Twitter, whether you are joining us on LinkedIn. Welcome to the second tour of MESHfair 2024. And we are here live both in Decentraland, meeting at Decentraland Art Week Plaza, which is 6161 in Decentraland. And we're going to be taking you through three incredible artists' cubes in MESHfair 2024. Before we start, a massive shout out to everyone joining us in World. If you can jump in World, then do. We're at 6161 right now. And we are going to be taking you through Decentraland Art Week Plaza. So a massive shout out to everyone at Decentraland Foundation who has made this possible this year and has created this incredible installation of the artist's works. If you're new to this space, I'm Bae Bachner. I'm the producer of MESHfair. I'm also producer of Decentraland Art Week. Thank you so much for joining us here. We've got with us today Antonio, Argent, and Ogi, our three artists who are going to be leading the tours into their cubes. And we also have here Johnny Dean Mann, who is the editor of the Tickle magazine, one of the most influential blogs and creative outlets and magazines and communities on the Tezos blockchain, part of the real arts community, out of which came a lot of Mesh artists this year. Johnny was one of the curators for MESHfair, who selected the artists that you're seeing in the cubes as we're going to be walking around today. So thank you everyone for joining us. If you are available and can join us in World, we're going to be jumping from cube to cube. Before we do, I think I'm going to give you a little bit of a guideline if you're in World with us today and you're new. If you want to jump between cubes, I'm going to be putting the coordinates in the chat. So you can see the chat coming up on the side of your screen on the left-hand side. If you want to jump, I'm going to be putting the coordinate in there, which turns it into a hyperlink. So when we jump between cubes, just press the hyperlink and that's going to teleport you between the cubes. So the first cube we're going to be starting with is Antonio's cube. We're going to be jumping now to 6368. So if you are in World with us now, I'm going to be putting 6368 into the chat box. So click the chat box, go to nearby, and you'll see 6368 as our first link. And as we do so, Antonio, do you want to quickly introduce yourself and tell us how you got involved with MESHfair this year?
Hi. I first saw some ads in Twitter. Like Twitter is full of a lot of stuff going on. And first I was a little skeptical. Then I saw the deadline ad, so I pay a little bit more attention. And first I was a little skeptical. Then I saw the deadline ad, so it's repeating my audio here. A little bit more attention. And first I was a little skeptical. Then I saw the deadline ad, so my audio is looping. It's okay now?
Yeah, I think, did you need to mute Decentraland itself? Because we had the talk being beamed live into Decentraland Plaza.
No, I'm not in the same computer. I'm just in the stream yard here.
Okay, let me see.
No, someone maybe is looping the microphone.
Let me see. I'm going to mute everyone else and let's try again. Antonio, is that better for you?
Yellow? I think, no.
Is it okay? Okay, great.
Perfect. So then I saw the deadline and I thought, okay, I need to subscribe to this. Then I thought, what should I build in this is like this small limitation that really tells about something that we are living right now, something that it's really happening and it's really gonna change the cyberspace and the human species as a whole. So I thought the topic in quantum computers would be an interesting point to to talk about, because we are in this tipping point of I don't know if you guys saw the NVIDIA keynote. Like, we are basically in a transhuman state right now. Like, we are starting to use this computing power to simulate DNA, to simulate molecules, to really change a lot of stuff that we thought was not possible. And in terms of simulation, I thought I wrote this text. I say that we will be able to accelerate time. This I'm talking about, like, in a simulation point of view. We will be able to predict a lot of stuff, even in a molecular level or in a, like, climate level, uh, and we will start to really uh, trust these systems. Like, what this kind of stuff tells us, we probably will close eyes and accept as a reality. So I thinking, like, I was talking yesterday about how we are, like, just in the beginning of this this three-dimensional space. Like, I think this kind of space will be here for 1,000 years more, and
Mm-hmm.
because it's all digital, and the time doesn't matter for a digital asset to. So I think, like, all these mesh cubes installations will be in some kind of prehistoric state of the metaverse that we are living right now. And I thought would be an interesting point to talk about, like, and I love this, as I am also an industrial designer, and I like to create stuff in the real world. So all of my creations, I try to be really practical, and and re and be able, and all the things that I do usually are, like, physical. You can actually
Mm-hmm.
construct this made of metal and marble, and you can get the same installation in the real world with some kind of adjustments. But I try to keep all my work is in this practical uh, practical point of view, in, like, the construction point of view of the work. And I don't know. I was thinking about to create this atmospheric feel of godness, and this feeling of we are in this stage of becoming gods, and getting twisting the reality, I, and this is the overall feel of my installation.
I think that really comes across in the space that we're in right now. I can see the rain falling, this incredible golden piece in the center of the sculpture. What kind of symbolism is there around that, the kind of golden tower in the center of the work?
Yeah, this is a representation of a quantum computer. I thought we showed last. Yeah. When I first saw a quantum computer, in my life, in, like, a photo, I said, "Fuck, this is really magical." I don't know if you
Mm-hmm.
saw one. It looks like a witchcraft structure made of gold, and usually you can see this in temples, but it's a piece of high technology that feels like magic. So I really wanted to show this type of structures in this work. And you see, I had to simplify it a lot because of the polygon limitations, but it's actually really looks like this
Mm.
this structure. Here you see two quantum computers. Actually, the chip in the quantum computer usually stays in the bottom, and it's the upside down that is right. The It usually doesn't stays up like the center one. And it all this, to this be real, all this room that we are right now should be at absolute zero, because the quantum computer must be really cold. So usually it's in a vacuum inside a chamber, but here is it's all exposed. So usually we should not be inside a quantum computer. So, but I thought that would be cool to in Decentraland we can be at absolute zero and it's okay. So we can imagine this room that we are right now. It's in absolute zero, and
I
this
love
rain
this so much.
and this rain. It's actually I don't know. It's to represent some kind of atom, some kind of electrons in this is this is space to keep some to get some movement, just to add some dynamism to the scene. That's actually it must be all, since we are in absolute zero, should be everything should be stuck, but oh, I just thought that would be cool to have some glowing stuff moving.
It's incredibly effective, and I love this idea of us all being in Decentraland right now, in a virtual world, in absolute zero, inhabiting a quantum computer together as this kind of communal installation. And you can see we have people dancing within the metaverse right now. We've got Derek. We don't know how he does it. Derek manages to climb above all installations. He has some kind of magic power. But it's this feeling of everyone coming into these spaces and really starting to inhabit them. And the fact that we're doing that within this installation right now in Decentraland at 63, 68, if you can jump in well with us. And it's proving to be a really magical time right now in this cube. Johnny, can I pull you into this conversation right now? I see you commenting in the comments. Can you explain your connection with MESHfair to anyone who's new joining us right now?
Hey guys, can everyone hear me for a start?
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely, loud and clear.
Fantastic. I had a bit of an echo audio issue as well, but that's been fixed, thank God. Hello everyone in the room, Antonio as well. It's a fantastic cube you've created here. So I was a curator for this MESHfair and the previous one. It's always a pleasure to work with Bay, who's been part of the Web3 scene for as long as I can remember, really. So thank you for that, Bay, and for all the amazing efforts you're doing to create these events. It's fantastic to be part of it. I had a question for Antonio. You made a quote earlier which I really liked. That it's almost ironic that this sort of cube is presenting this quantum computer at what is a prehistoric state of the metaverse. I really like that concept that we're currently living in this kind of savage, uncivilized kind of state almost, and we're kind of on the cusp of something important technologically. I just wondered if you could sort of maybe talk to us about how you see the metaverse changing over time. Will it be incremental? Will it be a sudden change when technology takes this big leap? How do you see those things progressing?
I really think that we are in this prehistoric state of the metaverse, and as all technology, we see exponential growth. Like it will probably rise. The polygon count will rise exponentially. The user base as well. Everything that has this tendency when is attached to technology. And I really see that. I don't know if the Decentraland. I always thought about this. I don't know if Decentraland makes some kind of snapshot of the whole world and keeps it like, oh, this was 2023 snapshot. All the builds are like stored. I don't know if they do this, but I thought this would be cool. But these spaces, if they are stored in uh, some kind of server, I don't know, some kind of they should be good to be used, like I like to say, like 1,000 years from now. Like if you can open a text file from 50 years, or I don't know how much time there's the oldest text file, but I bet that the first text file created on a computer you can open right now. So imagine a lot of years from now, this place would be like a Pompeii. Like the human race could be another thing, but we should be able to still move around this space created by humans. Like probably in the future, people will just build with AI. I don't know, but this is like vernacular architecture from now. Like real humans moving vertex with their own hands and creating this space. And I think this would be a very nice asset to be stored and be remembered. Like 200 years from now would be awesome already. Imagine going inside some imagine going inside a virtual space created 200 years ago. Like it's not possible because we didn't have computers, but 200 years from now, this could be totally possible. This would be I don't know, I think everybody can get the feel of what I'm talking about, but I bet we are in the first layer of this memory. After the games, of course, because they are actually the first game, but the first layer of 3D spaces. But as a first metaverse on a blockchain, on Ethereum, on open world, I think Decentraland is like the first one of this kind of environment that should be stored, and it's part of the history of this virtual space.
We're talking about some important themes here in Decentraland. If you are with us right now, we're recording this, so hopefully if you're with us in 200 years time, you'll be able to watch this recording as well and join this tour along with us. If you are joining with YouTube or Twitter or LinkedIn Live right now, I do encourage you to join us in World. You can jump at decentraland.org. You don't need a VR headset. You don't need anything apart from a web browser and an email address to enter. You can then explore with us throughout these virtual cubes. We're going to jump to 2 more cubes during this cube tour. I'm joined here by the artists Azzolino, Argent, and OgiWorlds, and also one of our curators of MESHfair, Johnny Dean Mann from the Tickle. I should explain to anyone new to MESHfair that there was an open call. We had about 80 artists that applied to be part of MESHfair and create a cube for this installation that you see. And we had 15 international curators, galleries, and writers like Johnny that then became the curators of the event and selected artists from that open call. Johnny, coming back to you, what were you looking for when you reviewed those applications for MESHfair? What were the ones that stood out for you and you thought this is something that you wanted to bring into the show?
Yeah, that's a great question. Having been involved in this last year as well, and being the editor of the Tickle, which has been going for nearly 3 years now, actually. We're soon to hit our 100th issue. So I've sort of had a broad and very sort of in-depth kind of experience of digital art over the last 3 years in all of its forms. Obviously, one of those forms is this sort of virtual world, and there are several artists that have been around since day one, essentially, that were selected for MESHfair, and some that I selected myself as well. But there's a different kind of approach that artists have to take for these kind of exhibitions, and it's really interesting to see how they tackle those ideas of it's not only art, it's architecture, it's audio, it's sort of user experience. It's how do you sort of create a sort of immersive sort of game-like experience as well. So there's a lot of different things you have to consider when selecting these, and I can say that the selections, the ones that we were sort of shortlisted to have a look at were all fantastic in their own way. Unfortunately, we had to select only a few, but I could easily have selected kind of, pretty much most of them, to be honest. So it was a real pleasure to see what people at the kind of leading edge of this sort of scene were doing. And they were also different. The variety was really interesting. So yeah, it's a really great show, and I just really like to encourage everyone to just look at all of the cubes, because there's such a variety of fantastic creators involved in all of these, and the experience is just wildly variant across all of them, as we will see when we go through just the 3 that we have this evening. So yeah, thanks for putting it together.
Oh, you're very welcome. Thank you for being part of it. I think that's a great segue for us to jump to our next cube. Argent, we're going to jump to yours. So we're going to be going to 6055. Thank you so much, Antonio, for both the work here and also for taking us through this installation. It's been magical. Please stick with us, and we're going to be talking about Argent's cube. We're going to be diving in. If you're with us in world, we are going to go now to 6055. I'm going to be putting the link in the chat. Again, if you're new, just open the chat, click nearby, and you'll see there's a hyperlink which you can click on to get to Argent's cube, which is 6055. So we're going to jump in. It's called Cosmic Portal. Argent, as we're teleporting into this cube, would you like to introduce yourself and talk a little bit about how you got involved with MESHfair?
Hello, I'm Argent. I'm a multimedia artist from Barcelona, and especially I'm a metaverse native. And I think some of you already know me from the CBD and from other things that I've done, but this is the first MESHfair that I am in, and it was because of you, babe. I mean, I knew it because of you that the call was ongoing, and I find super interesting the thing, because it's putting a bunch of little walls that you have to go and swim in, open to the visitors. In this case, what I want to say is that the artist is, or what we express in these little cubes are but an entry to the soul or the heart or the imagination, or all of them and above, of the mind of the creator. And what we are doing when we are visiting art installations like this, that MESHfair ones, that are inviting us into little scenes, little worlds, to enjoy and interact with each other, is what I think is that is just marvelous. I mean, right now it's not too much of this in metaverse NFTs, and it's a pity. It should be more of this instead of other things also can be done. But I mean that with culture, it should be culture. It should be more reinforced to emit outside the metaverse, to the crossing realms of the biological world, the importance also of these things, not only for the future, but for the now, and for even for our own past.
So tell me then a little bit more about your cube, this kind of sense for you of the biological and the virtual coming together. How did this cube come about?
Yeah, and this is part of a bigger project that I am developing in chapters. First chapters was developed in Decentraland Music Festival. The project is called Sonic Planet, and is a mix between bio elements, biology, and cybernetic life. One of my great inspirations when I create is biology and in neurology and all that is cyberpunk, ethereal, dream, from the dream realm. And I'm interested in those connections. And this one, for example, is the second chapter that continues after the first one. And in this one, what we are is meeting one of the avatars of the AI they got from Sonic Planet, which name is Ava. And in this case is the representation underwater of this god, because this god can have multiple avatars and to reach different parts of this world. And what we see here, if we go, if we are down, is a little ring, and from this ring is coming out these little particles that goes to up to try to allow people to follow a certain path to meet with the day. The ring down and the particles in this case represents the crossing to a new world, and it's because this chapter in this chapter we meet two other main characters from this art installation project, that is Captain K and Dr. Luna. Dr. Luna is medic doctor and is the doctor of the spaceship Akira, while Captain K is the captain of this spaceship called Akira that suddenly crossed this portal and now is inside the underwater realm of this planet that is called Sonic Planet, planet, in which the main communication between the inhabitants of it goes through music and colors.
So I love this. So it's almost like we're within a story right now, that there are characters within this cube that have come from this story that is a legacy story. For you, this story is ongoing. It was part of Decentraland Music Festival. The installation in Decentraland Music Festival was part of this story. These characters are continuing, and we're kind of being teleported into a point in a story for you. And this cube is telling that part of the story and introducing new characters at the same time.
Thank you, because my English today was going to the shit, and I was thinking, oh my God, how I explain this now? I mean, I cannot copy and paste. I was trying to copy and paste part of the explanation directly into the chat box, and I was like,
no, it's perfect, Argent. Thank you. And Johnny, can I bring you in? I see you kind of writing questions and thinking about this installation. What are your thoughts right now?
Just to say that the music also is part of this, because one of the things is with music, and I don't know if you knew, neurology now, there's a bunch of studies that are trying to call to the attention in the neurologic field about music as a palliative for chronic pain and other things. So it's really interesting, because imagine this with not only the music, but also a 3D environment that you can access, which it can be very, very beneficial. So that's all.
It's interesting, Arjun, that you mentioned the music. That was my question, actually. This exhibition, or this cube, is a very sort of multi-sensory experience. Music is obviously a really strong part in that, and you mentioned that this was split into chapters. This is the second of many. Was that sort of related to music, perhaps, like tracks on an album? Is that sort of the way you were looking at this, or is it more of a sort of, is it separate from that?
No, in fact, during the first one, I released 8 tracks done for this art installation, and yesterday in the pre-alpha, I was putting some of the coming ones as a little alpha in the break by break in Decentraland DAO in Discord when we were doing the pre-alpha yesterday.
So I should explain to anyone new, Argent was with us last night in Decentraland DAO. The DAO is the decentralized autonomous organization behind a lot of the ownership, the governance, the politics around Decentraland. And so Argent was invited last night to talk about her process with the DAO, to show how this cube was developed from the beginnings all the way through. So if you're interested in this, that's available on DAO Twitter, looking at the Brick by Brick sessions that happen every Monday on a lot of the creative process. And it's becoming this kind of very inspirational talk that happens every Monday about creators and their process within Decentraland. So a big shout out to the DAO for putting those talks on. Johnny, apologies for interrupting.
No, not at all. No, I was going to follow up that by asking Arjun what sort of the details of the sort of narrative arc that you're pursuing with this. Could you give us a few more details about what to expect next?
Yes, a little more developed into this first chapter, because right now we are in the first chapter, but it's the first scene of the first chapter. That is the meeting, the first contact is an alternate name. Because it's when you are doing space exploration, hope we all can do space exploration one day, but I mean, in space exploration, when you contact alien civilization, is called first contact. Or not only in space exploration, also in anthropologic exploration also as well, when we were discovering other cultures and so on. Is the first contact that you have with these new cultures or these new settlements is what is represented right now in here, just the passing. But in the next one, what I want to show is, in the coming one, is the crew of the Akira spaceship. That is the one that is conducting us through this journey of exploration, intergalactic exploration. To fusion not only what is a biological or or cybernetic, but also on a way what we understand as spiritual, being that whatever it means for each one. It's this intimate process that it reveals to you something greater and more united.
I love this so much, Argent. Just a big shout out that we've just broken 1,000 live viewers right now. So we have 1,000 people watching us talking about this installation. So welcome to 1,000 people. Look, looking at this installation in Decentraland, whether you're with us on YouTube, Twitter, on LinkedIn, please do dive with us in Worlds. We're currently in Argent's MESHfair Cube at 6055. Come and be with us in these installations. It was really exciting for me to put together this tour because the three of you have this practice that's looking at both future technologies, but also linking them into bioorganics, this sense of the infinite, this sense of history being made within virtual worlds. So I'd really like to kind of call you both in, Antonio and Ogi, to give your perspectives on this cube as well. Antonio.
I think we are more and more close to this synthetic digital how do you say, digital biology than we think. We are already using in artificial intelligence to modify DNAs, and we are very close to start. We are very close to have some humans that has DNA written by artificial intelligence. So I don't know if we will just be humans after that, but we are very close to this happen.
We will be transhumans. One of the topics of this is I'm very passionate about transhumanism since I was playing Deus Ex Machina, Machina, that they talk on the first ones, the old ones, they were starting to talk about transhumanism on a way that it was a very scientific documentation based in. And in that moment, I remember that for this game, there was the guy that was developing all the awesome tools, prostheses that we are looking for in Paralympics since then. So that called me very, very deep. And from that point, I think, like you when you're explaining were explaining about the quantum computer, and so it's going to be very interesting where it's going.
Yeah, we could have like text to image. We can have like text to babies. Like
Text to babies.
Blue eyes, very tall and athletic.
Healthy.
I think that's the quote of the tour so far. We're going to have text to babies.
Text to babies. I love it.
Ogi, can I bring you in? Because I see so many connections between your work and Argent's.
Yeah, certainly. Like, I mean, I've been loving both cubes up to now. It's been super cool to kind of like experience them with a bunch of other people, because it's different when you come in on your own and like, oh, this is really nice and cool, and you have like this kind of very private exploration, but then you see how everyone else reacts. It has got this larger sense of community spirit within there, which is always love that. But yeah, like when it comes to like us occupying a similar space, I think we definitely do. I mean, this kind of links on from the metaverse being a medium, the article that you're working on, Bay, which is basically like, literally this exhibition is that we're using the metaverse as a medium to explore different ideas and various things. And what Antonio said, like I believe that we are at the dawn of the digital age rather than like, middle of it. We're just kind of started that around the start of the century, kind of properly, and coming out of the full 20th century industrialization. And when it comes to the art, we are past the digital art in a stage of post-digitalism, whereby we have kind of accepted the existence of digital in our lives across the board, independent of ages, interactions and everything else. And we are creating in this post-digital space, trying to explore new artistic mediums in combination with technology to see what new things we can create. Because of the hyper novelty we're experiencing, everything is basically super new for everyone most of the time. So it's really easy to be first in things, but also it's unknown, which means we stumble a lot trying to kind of, in a clumsy way, explore this new digital frontier of binary code.
Yeah, and I was going to add something to that you said, but I just flashed it. Sorry, but I think also it's very important to have. Oh yeah, we are bad phones also. It's not that anymore. And phones, like we understand now, the smartphones exist for not that many years, but we don't go anywhere without the phones. It's very difficult to find one that does not have a smartphone. So I think that's the beginning of that you were saying, Ogi.
100%. And it's like, you have text to babies, but also you can think of it the other way around. We can you think about inscribing NFTs onto DNA for them to like exist longer.
Oh wow!
It's an interrelation.
We could stay on this talk. I am fascinated. Like we're edging 1,100 people in this talk about DNA etching, text to babies. It is fascinating, but we have 20 minutes left, and I'm really keen to jump into our next cube, Ogi, to give you the time to show us your installation. So we're going to jump. We're going to be jumping now, if you are in world, to Ogi's cube, which is at 6663. So I'm going to be putting it on the chat. If you're new to Decentraland, just open your chat bar on your right-hand side, left-hand side, click nearby, and then you will see I've put in a hyperlink for you, which is 6663. So if you click on the blue link, we're going to be jumping into Ogi's world. Ogi, can you tell me the title, please? Can you pronounce it for us?
I'll try. It's Labyrinthium Metaspherium. So not as hard when you pronounce it. Basically, labyrinthium is the ancient kind of Greek word for labyrinth, and metaspherium, it's kind of self-evident. It's something that I've kind of used prior in works as a kind of a chant of metasphere itself. So yeah, hence these kind of like nomenclature that I kind of practice, which seems to work. By the way, there's audio in the cube, which is like essential part of it.
I'm not going to be able to broadcast it for us because it's going to give people all kind of different things. But if you are able to jump in world and jump to 66, 63, you'll be able to hear this in first person. I should also have a huge shout out to the Decentraland design team, JP, Sirs, and Shibu, that have created these cubes with the interactivity. Every single cube has the information given by the artist that they wanted to present with their work. Ogi's I Love Yours on the side of the cube as we dive in, talking about digital minimalism, post-digitalism, futurism, engage, discover, and delve into the symbiosis of art and the digital age. So we're going to be diving in to the cube now, and tell us what we're going to experience in there. Super.
This is probably my most conceptual piece I've done probably since '94. It is a largely conceptual piece rather than a literal one. And basically, it stems from a kind of a little bit frustration within the space, which I'm sure everyone here has experienced as well, that there's a lack of contextuality when it comes to digital art. A lot of people will talk about really these small slivers of digital spaces and art in those respects without connecting it to the larger artistic journey. And I thought it would be really interesting to kind of trick people into visiting a place in order for them to be forced to learn. So I made a thesis connecting the history of art and technology, going from futurism all the way through Dada, Surrealism, pop art, minimalism, abstract expressionism, postmodernism, post-postmodernism, conceptual land art, etc. Connected them all with the digital movement of kind of like now and the post-digital movement that's kind of emerging throughout it as well. And all of these connections, which kind of like started across the board with all of these movements, which paradoxically weren't as engaged with technology as much as they critiqued it. So up until around turn of this century, it was only a niche number of artists who would kind of be established, but kind of engaging directly with technology. And they were kind of generally like in very small niches, because they're around there, but not in the kind of larger movements of it. So it's a really interesting kind of intersection that we rely at, whereby almost everyone is a digital artist in some respects, even the traditional ones. They're posting stuff, they're using digital media to communicate and to put all of those things out there. So I really want to kind of like express that kind of history of that with a considered view, looking at how things connect across the board. How is abstract expressionism how does that connect to something like later on, something like anarcho-maximalism in glitch art? You know, these are like direct connections. How does that connect to like Dada? How does pop art connect to the collectibles, whether they're vinyl or in the digital form? How do these kind of things intersect over the time? This is what I want to explore. So I kind of created a collider labyrinth to trick people into staying there for a foreseeable amount of time by hiding all of the boxes. So they're like a little bit kind of hidden, so you can get stuck in there, and you're following the golden thread, which is how it kind of felt, uncovering all of this history. And obviously I had to kind of place it with some kind of interest, because we're all a little bit ADHD these days because of the technology. So taking the cues of all of that, kind of place these kind of a highly futuristic creatures all the way around in this swirling space. And we're trying to kind of like go through this little maze to kind of find your little end and everything else, while you're kind of being given a longer thesis on it. So that's kind of like the artist statement on the work itself. And if anyone's interested, there's the full thesis I kind of like put out on my Twitter, which is just over 90 minutes long, listening audio style. So yeah.
It's such a powerful installation, Ogi, and you can see it really does trap us within these environments. Like
there's a couple of collider traps intentionally there.
Yeah, I've been trapped with Hugh Pao, Tina, Maheti, and Neo. We're all trapped right now within this installation.
Art history.
Yes. Johnny, can I bring you in for your reactions on this one?
Yeah, you just answered one of my questions actually, Ogi, about the audio itself and the length of it, and if it was available elsewhere, because it's such an interesting subject, and you're right about the connections between everything. It's so fascinating, and I think part of the problem perhaps with digital art is that those connections are not as well understood as they possibly could be. Perhaps there's a sense that the long history of digital art, and it goes back decades, actually much longer than people imagine, and is connected to many other art forms, is not so well understood these days. It's actually a small part of the mission of the Tickle as well, is to sort of investigate these the historical kind of origins of digital art. So it's a really fascinating thing personally for me, and I think for all digital artists it's something that's very pertinent. And this particular talk that you've given, I haven't done the whole 90 minutes yet, unfortunately, but I will at some point. And I really like the idea that you're sort of trapping people in here to kind of make them listen to it. It's kind of like a TED talk, but with no exit. It's a nice sort of conceptual idea. Can I ask you about the images projected around the walls? Are these related to other works of yours, like Metadroma and etc.?
Yeah. So like the images are of these kind of like post digital algo creatures which exist in a world in a kind of post digital reality, effectively. So I felt like they're fairly apt to kind of showcase of where everything is going. They're all kind of created in virtual reality, and in they kind of fall probably into hyper complexity because they have like trillions of polys towards the end. And it kind of all builds up to like larger and larger kind of like scenes which kind of explode right towards the last 3 minutes as I start talking about post-digitalism and where it can go further on. So, and I thought like them being fairly cosmic as well really sets the scene, and also discombobulates you a little bit, because you feel like you're in a swirling space. You know, if you get stuck in one place and start looking at it, everything's like going in a certain swirl, and kind of to keep that going throughout it. To kind of basically observe these kind of gigantic creatures, which is kind of postulating that is a symbolic representation of the post-digital movement where it's going.
That's really interesting. I think maybe that there are connections with the other two cubes that we've seen tonight, and maybe we could get Argent and Antonio to comment on this. But it seems that there are links to both of the concepts in those other cubes that we've witnessed. Antonio, in terms of the sort of progression of the metaverse and the future and how that's related to today's technology, and Argent as well, in terms of the kind of fantastical worlds that are easily enabled with this kind of technology in the metaverse. I wondered, Antonio and Argent, did you have any comments perhaps about how your cubes link to what Ogi has created here?
Dale, Antonio.
Yeah, I see that we both are wondering about the future, and trying to use these spaces to transport our users to the future. And I think this is a correlation of both of our works. And another thing that I would like to, I perceived here, that you used a lot of these colliders to trap people, né? And as we can see, and it triggers in me a thing that I always think about in Decentraland, is the thing about the personal space in Decentraland. How we don't have space in personal space in Decentraland. We are all links and bytes, but when you see an avatar of another person, it's very rude to you be inside the person in her personal space. And here you are playing with, there are like 3 peoples in the same personal space, and you are pushed together. And I think this kind of breaks the ice a little bit on the connection with other peoples, because you are forced to be in the same spot, and you see a lot of things, a lot of people getting the personal space shattered. and I don't know, I think this is it's interesting thing in the metaverse, the idea of personal space, and you are
Definitely.
playing with this here.
It's
That's
that
my
idea of
thought.
like a digital identity, and because the colliders are in constant motion perpetually throughout the whole
Yeah,
space,
and
and you can't see them all. So they
yeah,
push
and
you
you are
around.
like pushing 3 people in the same spot, and you have like 3 avatars with their personal space destroyed. Usually, you see how everybody get started is very far apart. Everybody are in its own little spot in Centraland. But when you mash the avatars together, and you, oh, I'm inside Tampoco right now.
Yeah.
This is cool.
It's, to me, it's very curious that you address that, because when I started in metaverses, I was part of a non-profit organization, and I was in charge to research if the metaverse per se, it was a good channel of communication for science and arts. And because the organization was a student organization from the Universidad de Barcelona, and we wanted to link both to make science more approachable for public. And we realized it during the research. I was conducting several interviews and debates and so on. And it was a maze to me, for example, how people were exactly feeling that you were saying and calling the attention, Antonio, and that Ogi is forcing right now in here. This proximity is, even when we know that it's just a digital thing that is zeros and ones, and so that is not even a doll. We feel it like it's ours. It's an extension of ourselves, and that's why we feel it as we feel it. That it can be sometimes embracing, it can be rude, or it can be magical. Depends on how is it the experience.
Critical theory is hard. So
Yeah.
I kind of want to represent how it can be uncomfortable as well, when you have to kind of like learn new things, and you're kind of being almost kind of going through a lecture of a kind. And it can be a discombobulating and comfortable experience. I wanted to keep that. So the spaces to maneuver in the labyrinthium are very small as well, to kind of increase and heighten the tension.
I remember that when we were talking about this, you, Ogi and me, I was saying, but are you going to do a labyrinth? But a labyrinth is going to be like very, very small place. And you were lolling and you were saying, yes, I want that. It's like...
I'm really enjoying watching how the community is inhabiting this space as well. I've been really interested to see which emotes are being used in this space. How are people moving? What are they doing? We've got people setting up easels above the moving colliders. We've got someone on a swing that they've installed on one of your golden threads, Ogi. We've got people doing dance. We've got people lying down under the colliders. It's really interesting to see how our digital bodies, our digital selves, then start moving into this space. It's a real joy. So if you are watching this, check out what all of the avatars are doing within the space, as well as kind of being squished together, but then finding their own kind of ways of expressing within these small spaces. I think it's working so well, Ogi.
Thank you. It's a fully looping labyrinth. So as you kind of like get to the end of it, it starts again. So, like the history of itself, we started futurism, and now we went through digitalism into post-digitalism. And where do we go from now? This is a big question. Yeah.
I also like what you said of calling the attention on digital. That also Willie was saying, digital art is not that new as people is putting it out. Metaverse also neither. It already has 20 years at least. So we are in technologies that are new, but not that much. But it still like I don't know how to say, perception for the public. It may be very different. For example, talking with other people, with nurses the other day, they were telling me, oh, well, but it's not like a real painting. And you say, why do you think so?
We could talk about this for the next hour. Unfortunately, we're kind of edging towards our time. So I would love to finish off from all of you to tell the kind of the listeners, we're edging 1,300 people right now viewing live on both YouTube, Twitter, LinkedIn. I guess I would love to ask you all, what's been the one thing that surprised you this year about either your practice for MESHfair or your involvement or your kind of exploration of MESHfair, the one thing that's really stood out so far as a surprise for you? Antonio.
I really liked this cubes build, actually, more technical point of view. I want to know, when we are in Plaza, outside of the cubes, the cubes are not loaded, like all the content inside is not loaded. You know this answer?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, because I imagine if it was loaded, would be a complete bug in outside the cubes, but here we are, everything is fluid. I think it's because everything inside the cube is not loaded and until you enters it.
That's right. So it's loaded.
Right.
It is where you are. We haven't taken you to a different place. You're still within the same parcel in Plaza, but you have been loaded into this environment that wasn't there before you teleported. Cool. So it opens up that environment. The environment first is the expanding and rotating cube. And then when you teleport, the environment is swapped for the stationary cube with all the artist installations inside.
So cool. Because there is zero bug over the Plaza, and all those cubes has a lot of stuff and a lot of movement. And
it's a huge shout out to the foundation team. Have done a miracle on this.
This is incredible.
Yeah, I am curious about the code. and how it was done that, and how can I replicate it, you know?
Well, it's all open source. So obviously everything that the foundation does is open source. So all of these models and the code will be released to the community as well. So you are very welcome to dive into those repos when they've been released. Argent, something surprising for you?
For me, I thought you were able to do less than what you really can do in Decentraland. And I was really impressed because we know just a part of what we can do. Maybe we need even more tutorials about the cool things that we can do, like that is technical, that we can copy and paste, for doing a little bit faster and change some parameters and so. Because we are missing a lot of capabilities that we as not only as artists, but as artists and a multimedia one and a visual one, that uses narrative and so on, and that is a particle lover. Is very like, oh wow, and we can do this. Oh wow, we can do this, and that's, or if we cannot do this like this, we can do this like this other thing. And that was really magical in that sense. And of course the people is always like super amazing and super fashionable. They are all cool people, what you have them. They are showing you also as well a part of themselves, about their persona.
Thank you. Yeah, absolutely. Capabilities, the people inside the world. Ogi, for you, a surprise.
As always, it's always surprising it all comes together. when everyone's building in isolation, and then you can like see what people are building, and you have a chat with them and stuff like that, and then you see how everything's going behind the scenes. It's like magic happens, right? And because I was involved in the Mesh one as well, and it scaled so much and really well, like it all worked out. So adding all of these new interactive elements, bringing the community in a larger kind of like way, literally scaling the whole thing, and then everything kind of like happening and working without really like anything that's kind of like breaking. It's always like so remarkable, because it is magic, all of these things come from literally a word that people just type in, and that makes everything happen here. Without that, like, we have no visuals, we have nothing. So literally it's kind of magic being created out of nothing. And when it's like coordinated with so many different artists and creatives, and with such a remarkable number of kind of talented people doing really interesting things, it almost like proves my post-digitalism thesis by itself. I'm just like, yeah, that kind of like works. But I'm always kind of surprised, because it's like, I wonder if it could work.
It's gonna work. We're fine. It's brilliant. But yes, absolutely. And again, a huge shout out to everyone at Decentraland that's been involved in these installations. They have worked miracles over the last 2 weeks. So thank you all. Johnny, final word, something that surprised you from MESHfair this year.
Yeah, I'll keep it brief. I just want to echo your comments on Decentraland. It's a fantastically well put together event. It wouldn't be anything without the artists, of course. And being involved with Mesh previously, it's not a surprise that the quality is high. But even so, every single artist, what they create, like every individual act of creativity is a surprise. It just in the sort of form that it takes. So for me, it's just it's a pleasure viewing all of these cubes and all these different experiences and all the different representations of creativity from all the amazing artists you've got on show. And I urge everyone who's here, who's listening, to just go and have a look at all of the cubes. There's 30 plus with some fantastic artists, some of whom I've sort of personally vouched for, but everything is quality, and I just urge everyone to check it out, because it's brilliant. Thank you, Bay, and thank you everyone involved.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Johnny. I think that's a great place to leave this. This has been an absolutely fascinating talk. Thank you to everyone that's joined us in World, that has joined us on YouTube, LinkedIn, Twitter. Thank you for all your comments that have been coming through. Just really great to have you all here. We are continuing tomorrow with 2 MESHfair tours. We have at the same time tomorrow, one at 5 p.m. UTC, one at 10 p.m. UTC. So please do join us then for 6 more artists who will be showing us the inside of their process and their cubes. We're going to be joined by curators from international galleries, everyone that's been involved in MESHfair this year. So it's just been a pleasure. Thank you so much to everyone that's joined us on day 1 of both MESHfair and Decentraland Art Week. If you would like to see the full program of Decentraland Art Week, there are performances, there are live quests. You can go to decentraland.org/Art Week, or just hit decentraland.org and you'll have the big banner at the front page that you can find everything from. A massive thank you to Antonio, Argent, and Ogi, and Johnny for joining us today. And I will see you at the next tour. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys. Bye-bye.
Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Merci.